Good, good. I'm not gonna, demand a louder response out of you all. I appreciate you all joining us this evening with the weather improving itself. But tonight we have three special guests, wonderful ladies that are having a tremendous impact in our district, our own kind of not hidden figures, but probably not getting all the credit that they deserve, doing the hard work of improving the district through equity. And so tonight we have Mr. Labron Horton. We have Ms. Latonya Frazier-Goatley and Dr. Danae Speaks. And I will let them say more about themselves, and I'm gonna get out of the way. Please make sure you sign in, and then we also have some flyers for our other professional development this week with Dr. Cherie Dawson-Edwards. So make sure you grab that on your way out. Thank you.
All right, my name's first, so I'll go first. Okay, I'm Labron Horton. I'm the current Gifted and Advanced Program Coordinator for JCPS, a former elementary school counselor, and before that I was a gifted resource teacher. So that's my experience working with gifted kids and being an advocate for those students.
Latonya Frazier-Goatley. I'm currently the assistant principal at the Du Bois Academy. Prior to that, I was the GT AP coordinator for the district. Decided to go back and be with kids again, so I'm back doing that, but still doing a lot of work with gifted. My interest with gifted kind of came out of my classroom experience. I taught for several years at Chancey Elementary before I transitioned to the district level job. And so I wanted to make sure that we were identifying all students and giving all students opportunities within gifted programming.
And I am Dr. Danae Speaks. I recently completed my doctorate at the University of Louisville, and my doctorate was on high achieving African American males. And so there's plenty of research on underachieving African American males, plenty of research on the achievement gap, but not a lot of research on that other end of the spectrum. So high achieving African American males was what my dissertation was about, which kind of has led me into this world of giftedness and advanced placement, advanced program studies, and just being able to offer students an equitable education regardless of what their background is. So that's kind of my end to this work. So we're going to start off with a video, and as you can see, it's entitled "Overlooked, Pushed Out." So when you're thinking about the topic of what we're doing tonight with giftedness, thinking about who do you normally see in those types of classrooms, what is represented there, and how did those students get there? So thinking about those types of things as we watch this video.
I always knew like school's important. If I could go back, oh my God, things I would do.
Because she's black, she's gonna act ratchet,
Sassy, disrespectful, unruly,
rowdy person or loud person, ghetto,
combative, defiant, hypersexual. Well, you take these different stereotypes and you create the perfect storm for black girls. Looking specifically at the experiences of girls of color, we found that some of the conditions that pushed girls out of school had to do with the way teachers interpreted their behavior.
They just feel like, oh, because she's black, she's gonna act ratchet or ghetto or act out. You don't take the time to sit us down and talk to us. We have a lot of security guards inside schools. I feel like we need more, therapists inside schools.
are lowered standards set for black girls that makes them feel that they are not wanted in school, that school is not the most appropriate place for them, and that they're not really capable of being competitive in these schools, such that they feel that that's not a welcome learning environment, and so they avoid going.
I'm grateful to have my own place, to have a job. You know, without a high school diploma, it's hard. I felt like I had to go to school, and I wasn't really like probably gonna do anything that I went to school for. Like in real life, I wanted to be a criminal justice lawyer. That's so many years of school and dedication.
In terms of long-term earnings, actually being pushed out of school, not getting a high school diploma, suppresses the wages of women more than it suppresses the wages of men.
It's hard, especially when you feel like you have to do certain things in order to survive.
School is an important protective factor against contact with the juvenile legal system. The girl who is not in school is a girl who is in danger.
I was, you know, doing scams, I was selling drugs, you know, just do crazy shit when I could have been in school. If I could go back, oh my God, things I would do.
I don't think they understand when a student acts out, it's because they're going through something at home.
So usually I have to pick up my brother every day after school. And it takes me like an hour and a half to get to his school. I had to learn how to manage my time a little bit better. I definitely learned how to take care of other people, because I can't just pick him up. I have to pick him up, watch him, feed him.
Childcare responsibilities for girls in particular, not only girls who are parenting, but girls who are taking on responsibilities of other parents, sometimes getting pushed out of school because it's difficult to do that, and also be in school.
I don't know any boys that take care of their siblings, to be honest. It's only my mom, and she works, so she can never really make it to pick him up.
This is Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center. Transfer is available to the
Sometimes I do my homework on the train. Like these past 2 days, I've been typing up a PowerPoint on the train. So I had 4 hours of sleep last night. So I'm exhausted. I'm not at the same level. I'm behind.
next and last stop is Mount Heights Utica Avenue.
Jeremiah? Go that way. I need to exercise. Right. I really want to go to school. Like my motivation in the morning to go to school is to graduate. College is my main goal right now. I feel like that's like where I could feel like a little free bird and fly.
I'm a program coordinator for CCFY, Community Connections for You. The reason why I do this work is because I wish I would have had someone like me telling me that. I tell my students now, like, finish school. When I talk to my youth, like, especially the girls, they be like, Star, you're mad dope, you're pretty, like, you're mad cool. But when I tell them certain things, they listen to me. When I'm listening to these young people, we're too much talking, yelling, and telling them how horrible they are, how bad they are, instead of uplifting them and listening. Everybody wants to be heard.
It's a pretty powerful video, but as you think about some of the things that were highlighted in this video, think about what were some of the surprises that you might have felt. What were some of the things that you agreed with? What were some of the things that were underlying, that weren't necessarily on the out front of what this video was really about, but some of the underlying messages that were there. I want you to take just a couple of minutes, talk to the people around you about that, and then we'll share out for the good of the group. So those gender roles. Some of you might not have been here for the beginning of the video, but it talked about how the perception that teachers have of African American females. What were some of those words that were used?
Ratchet.
Ratchet.
Sassy. Loud.
Loud, sassy,
Hypersexual.
hypersexual. So we'll talk about all of those things a little bit later on, but just kind of keep those in the forefront of your mind. Ms. Frazier-Goatley is going to talk to us about the definition of gifted.
Actually, Ms. Horton is.
Ms. Horton, all right.
Okay, so what is giftedness? In Kentucky, it's defined as gifted students as those who demonstrate or have the potential to demonstrate exceptional abilities in the areas, there's 5 areas of giftedness: general intellectual ability, specific academic aptitude, leadership, creativity, and or visual and performing arts. So I just want to emphasize that a lot of times we look for those students who demonstrate, but the definition actually says the potential to demonstrate. So we need to look for the potential as well.
And just to kind of piggyback off of that before I go into some of our national norms and things that we have here, is in Jefferson County, we've done an excellent job of identifying kids that are identified in general intellectual. But if you'll notice some of those other areas that Ms. Horton talked about, leadership, creativity, visual, performing arts, we have not done as great of a job as identifying kids in those areas. So mainly our kids were serviced there if they ended up in a magnet. And if you look at the data of people who are applying to magnets, you can see why some of African-American kids, kids that are low socioeconomic, those are not the kids that are being serviced in those areas. So Ms. Horton has tried, I tried when I was there as well, so she's continuing with that torch to try to make sure that we look outside of just general intellectual when identifying kids. So the current state of gifted education, here are 3 facts up here. Black students are 66% less likely to be referred for gifted services. So if you are waiting on a teacher referral to identify gifted kids, that's what that looks like. That is why when I was advanced program gifted coordinator, I made it a point that we had a universal screener at 3rd grade, and we monitored that. So for some of you all that were counselors or APs at the time, you would hear us over there, okay, make sure you test this kid and test that kid, because we know if we're waiting on a teacher to do it, that's what it ends up looking like. If taught by a Black teacher, minority students are 3 times more likely to get a referral for gifted testing. It is very possible for minority kids to go through their whole JCPS career without ever being taught by a Black teacher, because currently we have about 16% of our teachers that are African American that teach in JCPS. And at the very end, minority students make up over 40% of the population in our nation's schools, but less than 25% of our GT programs. So although in Jefferson County, we're actually a majority minority district, but Ms. Horton's going to share some of those numbers as far as what it looks like in advanced and gifted programming here. We're still seeing that huge deficit or excellence gap within our own district as well.
So currently the percentage of African American, and also we're going to look at Hispanic and Latino female students that are identified for gifted programs in the state of Kentucky. Right now, African American females 5.6%. And then Hispanic Latino females are 2.3% in the whole state of Kentucky. Now, if we drop down and look at JCPS, yes, we are higher than the state, but we are the largest school district in Kentucky, so our numbers should be a lot higher. So for in Jefferson County, 7.1 for African American and 8.5 for Hispanic Latino females. and that is significantly lower than their peers. Probably about 3 times lower than their peers. So we definitely need to start looking at different ways to identify those students, different characteristics to identify those students, so that we can close what we call the excellence gap, which is a matter of equity. Okay, so some of the reasons that they are overlooked. Research shows that there's a lack of self-confidence with our girls of color. There's a lack of recognition. That was kind of talked about in the video, where they felt like there was lower standards. We have a lot of underachievement with our girls of color. A lot of times they want to fit in more than they want to excel, so they will underachieve. And it's done intentionally because they don't want to stand out or to be considered the smart girl or other stereotypes. There's a lot of peer pressure, and then a lot of times they feel misunderstood. And like you pointed out, the young lady didn't have anyone, or didn't mention anyone that she could go to in her school building that she could talk to. Maybe they don't have those relationships.
I have a question.
Yes.
How much does marginalization play a role in the overlooked black girls and other girls of color?
How much? It's probably
In JCPS.
In JCPS, it's probably a contributing factor for sure. And we know that they are significantly overlooked. They're very underrepresented in gifted and advanced programs. So, yes, there is a definite connection. And then
think about also counselors being the gatekeeper for a lot of that.
Yeah.
Counselors are the gatekeeper for advanced program, gifted programming. And so if we don't have counselors in schools, or counselors that are advocating for students in schools, then the door is shut.
Absolutely.
That opportunity is being gone for them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Josh?
So I constantly hear about the AP test in 3rd grade, but that only really sits that GIA and that specific academic ability. And maybe I'm jumping ahead. Are we talking about, like, what's the process in JCPS that we look at those other ones? Because I'm in counselors' offices every day, and I've never heard about the other ones being talked about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's coming.
So that is something that last year, as part of our KD audit, that was one of the deficiencies that we had, is that we are not identifying kids in all 5 areas. We are looking at 2 areas, and we're doing, a decent job of identifying. So now we have to. There's not if we want to. So all of the counselors or your building should have a gifted lead that your principal has designated, have to go through a training on how to identify in all 5 areas. So that is something that is coming, but that's why you haven't heard.
Are we getting screeners in those other areas? Are we looking at that?
Right now, we are, yes.
Okay. I'm just
And
curious.
they wouldn't technically be screeners. We could be using a gifted rating scale or different things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are piloting those other areas at the Du Bois Academy. So any questions that you all have outside of this, feel free to reach out, and my email will be at the end.
Yes.
Is the gifted lead an administrator or just any person?
The principal designated, so some of them are instructional coaches, some are assistant principals, some are counselors, and some are teachers. And then the other thing I wanted to add to this is that another contributing factor is that oftentimes girls of color will also need some kind of social emotional support, and it kind of goes back again to that counselor. When you see those students that have those leadership abilities and other things, they just may need some extra support from a counselor or an adult in the building to bring those out.
So the next one we have are characteristics that you tend to see in African American and Latino students, and I'll say may at the front because I don't ever want to stereotype any group of people. I will read these because I can tell they're tiny. So the characteristics of gifted Latino students is that they may be high-level thinkers, eager, enthusiastic workers, can struggle with English reading comprehension, idioms, and discipline-specific vocabulary, can also show higher achievement in math and science rather than English language arts, and could come from a lower socioeconomic status and lack the security and educational support from their families. On the other end, with gifted African American learners, a lot of times we will see that they're rapid, self-determined, driven learners, may be unusually sensitive to the needs of others. I like to talk about the kid who's you're teaching and they're up trying to help somebody else and you need them to get back to their desk. That may be that type of child there. May have strong reasoning skills. may come from a lower socioeconomic status and also lack the security and educational support, tend to enjoy problem solving, can be verbal learners, very dramatic, avid readers, can imitate others, demonstrate superior verbal skills, and then the old souls, that's the bottom bullet, seems like he or she has been here before. So just tends to have an older mind. And just thinking about that, how can that play out in the classroom as a benefit or not as a benefit within the classroom? So any bullet that you all see up there, feel free. I would like to hear some feedback from you all.
I think that last one, the unengaged kid, like the one who's like, why are you making me do this? This is stupid. Because they can see past like the routines and stuff that we might have, and like, but that's not really real, you know. But it looks like defiance.
Okay. Comes across as being defiant. All right. Yes.
It seems like he or she has been here before. When I look at young ladies in my second grade classroom, I have one that's very, very high, but she would disappear in the classroom because she's so to herself. She does not socialize at all with the other young ladies who may fit the other characteristics. It's not like I don't have one that's pretty much well-rounded. You know, that's what I'm missing in my classroom dynamic. She would not pursue opportunities. You know, this young lady would, because she's so quiet.
And to herself.
And to herself.
And a lot of times with that one too, for elementary teachers, if you've ever had those kids that are talking to you on the playground and you're trying to encourage them to go to somebody else, that would be that kid that seems like he or she has been here before. They enjoy adult company because you're speaking more on their level than their peers are, so that happens as well. All of these can be positive things if we know what to look for, but they can also have a very negative effect as well if you don't know. So if someone is imitating you, that can go over not so well, you know. Someone is dramatic, everything you tell them to do is and they're all over the place. That gets on your nerves after a while as well. But I think if we're cognizant of some of these characteristics and kind of start looking out for those things, then we could be a little bit more aware of what the kids are bringing to the table instead of trying to see it as a deficit.
Okay, so some of the barriers for our gifted girls of color, low expectations, which we saw in the video as well, or they're underestimated. A lot of times they have a conflict between their abilities and their social structure, and they don't know how to quite navigate that, so they need help with that. And then we know that there are systemic gender inequalities, just like in the video when she didn't know any young boys who are taking care of their siblings, but that's expected for their female students. And then a lot of times they have limited opportunities or sometimes a lack of support or resources. And for the young lady that was taking care of her younger brother, she wouldn't have time to participate in some of those extracurricular activities that could be challenging or more engaging for her. So that kind of limits her opportunities as well. Did you want to say? So all of these barriers create gaps. All of the barriers that we have in between a student and accessing education at their level, it creates a gap. And there are many different gaps, some of which are on here, but of course we've all heard about the achievement gap. We've talked a little bit about the excellence gap. There's an opportunity gap, meaning that not every student has the same opportunities and is afforded the same type of experiences that lead them into being able to be successful academically. And then also there's a wealth gap. We think about gender roles, we think about how women are paid versus how men are paid, we think about how African American people earn their earnings versus what their counterparts are earning on a regular basis. There are many gaps. And so when thinking about this, if you can hit the next slide, when thinking about this, all of it comes back to the classroom, regardless of what the gap is, even if it's a healthcare gap. All of it comes back to the classroom. So Arnie Duncan says, education is the civil rights issue of our generation. And if you care about promoting opportunity and reducing inequality, the classroom is the place to start. Great teaching is about so much more than education. It is a daily fight for social justice. And if we could get every teacher to realize that this is about social justice, this is about making sure that all students have the same opportunities and all students have access to quality education, then
we are 10 steps ahead than where everybody else is in the country. This is a social justice issue, and we have to make sure that we are not only trying to just close an achievement gap, but recognizing that all of these other barriers are contributing to that gap. We will never close the achievement gap as long as we have all of these other barriers in place, as long as our stereotypes, perceptions, and all of those things are keeping us from reaching kids. We will never be able to close that gap. This, you can't really see the numbers on here, but the graphic that's on there shows the gap in poverty. There's a percentage of children younger than 10 years old in poor households, younger than 18 years old in poor households, and the different colors represent different ethnicities. So the reddish color is representing white, and the yellow is representing Hispanic, and then the greenish color is representing, representing African American. And so we can see that as far as, those are switched around. As far as education is concerned, we're seeing that not as many people that are African American are going to college, have degrees, actually graduated from college and have degrees as their white counterparts. And then also as far as health is concerned, not as many have health insurance. As far as poverty is concerned, however, the highest in poverty, the lowest being white. So looking at all of these different demographics, no matter what it is, we're seeing that African Americans are on the negative end of that. And so knowing that that's how they're coming into school, we know that we have to be able to break down those barriers in order to reach kids.
Okay, so the next picture, I'm gonna be a little unfair, but I'm gonna let you all look at this picture and just use your observation skills to just talk about what we noticed in the picture. Okay, and then we'll kind of go about and talk a little bit more about who they are. We're not gonna actually caption it, but what do you see? I see I hear some whispers, some children of color. Okay. What else do you notice? Body language?
Aggressive.
Okay. Aggressive, don't look happy. Okay. Anything else?
The darker ones are in the back of the picture.
Okay. Didn't notice that earlier, but okay.
Don't look unamused.
Unamused, okay. So what if I tell you that these children are the few minority students that were offered admission to a highly selective public school in New York? So these are gifted kids that actually got into this program. This particular program at this high school last year only entered seven minority students altogether that went there. And so just like us, we see something, we see an appearance, and then we automatically have this, oh, well, they must be aggressive, or they must not like this, or they're that. These are actually gifted kids in a very highly selective high school in New York that are getting ready to do some great things. But teachers often, and other adults as well, we often have stereotypes based off of what we see. So not even getting to know the kid. And so that's why I told you it was going to be a little unfair. I saw this picture, I'm like, that's perfect, we'll put that up there. And so you can kind of just see how that can easily happen. And so then we have these issues where we're not actually working well with kids because we've already made this assumption of who they are, and kids can sense that. Like, you don't have to say a word. If they know if you love them, and they know if you don't. So I just want you all to keep that in mind, but that's who those kiddos are.
And then continuing to speak about perceptions and stereotypes, I saw this picture. If you can't really see, the little girl says nurse in training, and the little boy says doctor in training. Now, why would we do that? Because I want my little girl to have one that says doctor in training. I don't have a little girl, but if I did. So thinking about the perceptions, the gender roles, and all of those types of things that we've already talked about, even in elementary school, up until high school, little girls are looked at and viewed as more mature. Little black girls are looked at as more mature than their white counterparts. They're looked at as being more knowledgeable than their white counterparts. So why is that negative? How would that be negative in a school setting, how would that affect them in a negative way?
The discipline. If the discipline is a disparity in discipline, our girls are looked at as grown,
Exactly.
and then they treat us like
As
grown
if
women.
you were grown,
And-
exactly.
And then these girls, sometimes, black girls, I can't speak for nobody else, we will challenge you if you put us in that space.
And then there is
And then you out.
defiance,
Yeah,
an angry black woman.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, knowing that there have been plenty of studies that say little black girls are looked at as more mature, looked at as being more knowledgeable, looked at as being overly sexual, looked at as being defiant, like you said, then that does definitely affect the way that they are disciplined within schools and receive more suspensions in schools and often lead them to criminal justice. So not only do we have, I think there's plenty of research about African American males and how they are criminalized across time. And I don't think any of you all would be surprised at those statistics. But to think that a little girl, to be looking at a little girl and to think that she's more mature, just from looking at her visually, because she's an African American female, does a detriment to that child if you're working with that child in the classroom or have any influence over that child's education at all. So perception is everything. Perceptions are killing kids' dreams every single day. And so we really have to be able to break down those perceptions and really be honest about the perceptions, because it's not anything that is likely intentional, but while it might not be intentional, it is definitely affecting them in a negative way. And so being able to recognize it is step number one. And so we have to be able to be more cognizant of the perceptions that are being portrayed. Oh, question.
Oh, I was just gonna add another way in the classroom that I've observed is that that's the student that is not really getting the education. She's used to help somebody else, or she's used to pass out papers, or she's
Yes.
used as an assistant.
Mhm.
Instead of being, referred to the gifted inside of the program, she's used are being challenged.
Right. I mean, everybody has their little mother student, their mother hen. That's absolutely fine. But there are obviously some skills there, a skill set that goes along with that. So we have to be able to hone that in multiple ways.
With the perception title, I kind of noticed that girls tend to be pushed into the area of entertainment, as far as career goals. How do you teach teachers to not do that, even if it's not intentional?
Right. And so a lot of what's coming later is more about how we want to steer female students into the areas of STEM, and to make sure that we're not thinking that, females, we all want to teach, we want to be social workers, we want to, those types of things, which are all wonderful, but we also want to make sure that science, technology, engineering, math, we're giving them opportunities for that as well, so that they can do whatever they want to do, whatever they decide to do. And it's not just limiting them to entertainment or, social careers. But we will talk about that a little bit later.
All right, so she kind of hit on that, but the number one barrier to student success that stands out more than a student's home life, more than their student attitude, is teacher perceptions. So I always like to say this, especially when I'm speaking to educators, we have a lot of power, and we could either be using that power in a good way or in a negative way. One article that I looked at actually stated, in order for us to see any systemic change happen, we must first be able and willing to address our perceptions, biases, and expectations for all students. Please don't say you don't have any biases, because we all do. So it's first being just very aware of that, cognizant of that, and then looking into what is it that I do when I see someone who's different, or how do I react to people of a different gender or people of a different race, and then beginning to work towards that. And some ways that we can do that, this is one way, being able to come out, have community conversations, being involved in professional development, ask for support. We're doing a lot more now through the DDP office with the racial equity plan, and we have the REAP tools that we have. Utilize those things, because those are the things that are going to help us change and make a difference. And then just knowing, being aware, and continuing to develop as an educator. So, forums like this kind of help us with that as well. So some ways that we can remove barriers at the parent or community level, and I know we have a mixture of both, but as parents, please attend conferences, and you don't just have to attend on the 2 days that we actually give you. So if you have a concern that you have, you can always ask for a conference, and I just want to make that very, very clear, because some people think, oh, I missed the one in October, oh, we skipped the one in February. That's what generally happens. Y'all know that's generally a snow day we were in this year, but just make sure if that didn't work out, then you can always schedule a different time to come and do that. Be a part of the SBDM. My son went to elementary school with me, K through 5. When he went to Newburgh, I was like, I gotta get my hands in Newburgh somehow. So I became, I got on their SBDM and served there. So that was a way for me to be a part, and SBDMs make a lot of decisions for schools. They make hiring decisions for schools. So, principal hiring. So you wanna make sure that you're a part of something that you can be able to have input. PTA, PTSA programs, those are other ways. DEP created a whole series of Just Ask brochures. So those are some brochures if you have questions when you're going to parent-teacher conference, or you have questions about advanced program or gifted testing, you can ask about that. I do want to plug in that although we universal screen in the 3rd grade, you can always ask to have your child retested for the advanced program or gifted test. That's just not a one-time deal. And I'll look on a lot of students' assessment tabs. We have some kids at the Du Bois Academy that are 6th graders. Scored at what we call an appealable level when they were 3rd grade, were never placed in the program, but never tested again. So it was like we saw this potential, but we did nothing with it. So just make sure you know that as well. Also, involving your kids in extracurricular programs, community, church, school, wherever you can to empower gifts, and we'll kind of get into more detail about what are some of those things that are out there. So I did a little research with the district level as well. I recently left the district level this year, but I want to see what are some things that they are doing currently to kind of help with removing the barriers. And so I talked about hiring culturally competent teachers. As I told you, Jefferson County has 16% of their teachers that are African Americans currently. More than just being African American, Dr. Speaks and I spoke about this. We want culturally competent teachers, regardless of skin tone. So we want teachers who understand kids, teachers who are willing to come out to professional development, teachers who are willing to learn. Those are the type of teachers that we want inside of the classroom in front of our kids. They do have a recruitment plan, and it has numbers and everything to it that they are trying to make sure that they recruit a more diverse teaching workflow. They have some collaborations with some of our HBCUs. And then they are also training, which goes back to that other part, if you're part of the SBDM, they're beginning to train SBDM members in diversity hiring practices, because they make a lot of those decisions at the SBDM table. And so if the right people aren't at the table, then we're not getting the right people in front of our kids as far as administrators and those types of things. And I'm big on saying we gotta start hiring people who are best for our kids and not our best friends.
Thank you, Lord.
So some ways that we can bridge the gap is we still have a sit-in policy. So most Jefferson County public schools do have a sit-in policy. So those are for kids who did not quite make the cut for advanced program or gifted within your building, but they have great potential. And so we want to offer them that opportunity to sit in, get the curriculum, see if it works for them, and then to retest them. So that's an option as well. If you haven't heard anything about that, always speak with your back. Your back is the person who does the placement there. I've always encouraged my teachers and other folks that are not in their role to ask them about that, so we can, have a more diverse crowd in there. Provide mentoring or role models. Mentors are very, very important, so we want to have some mentors. And we want mentors from a variety, diverse mentors, but you also want to be aware that you want some mentors that look like the kids as well. We have a very strong mentor program at the Du Bois Academy where we're trying to assign each one of our males to someone outside of the community. And so they come in, they have lunch with them, they check on their grades. It's just another check-in person for the kids to have. Leadership development, we'll get into some more programs that you all can do for leadership and making sure that you develop leaders within the building. The mother hen, I'll go back to that. That's nice, but we want to allow them to, every day a child comes to school, what's their goal at school? To to learn. So if I'm behind you being an assistant, what am I not doing? Learning. And so that is not a gifted service plan. Okay, and people, oh, I'll let them, they go over there and help this group. If I'm helping a group, and that's nice, we can do that sometimes. But every single day, I need to learn something. You can't teach me something that I already know. So how can we get kids out to do that? Encourage participation in enrichment opportunities. We had the nice pleasure of working and partnering with Shawnee, and we partnered with the Advanced Program Office, and we had an enrichment weekend program in March, where we invited all of our advanced program and gifted kids back, and they were able to come on Saturdays. Sort of like some of the Saturday enrichment programs that some of you may be familiar with at Western Kentucky or Indiana University Southeast. But we did it right at the Du Bois Academy with some teachers that have recently went through the program, and so that was nice for our boys as well. And then just to continue to nurture those gifts and talents. We know they are out there. Science says that one brain is not better than the other. So it's just making sure that we are looking for that, and we are working with what the kids have.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
We also have the opportunity to really, with the JCPS backpack, I don't know how you feel about it. It really doesn't matter, because it's here to stay. So, but with the backpack, your instruction really has to change in order to really make things backpack worthy. And so you can really see, and you can really hone gifts and talents, like she said, through the backpack. When you are doing passion projects, when you are differentiating instruction and allowing students to operate in different modes of instruction. When you have multiple things going on at the same time and you have a student leading a group. All of these things are not only backpack worthy, but these are life skills. I've sat in probably 50 fifth grade backpack defenses so far, and some of them are so moving. I cried the drop of a hat anyway. But I am sitting there like, they have so much potential and they have so many gifts and talents that don't necessarily fit into RL 5.2, you know? So really being able to move outside of the standards, because the standards are the bottom level of what it is that they're supposed to know. Moving beyond just the standard, and I know some of y'all are like, look, I can't even get the standards. I understand that too, but everybody has kids that are beyond the standard. And so how do we reach those kids by differentiating and really giving them the opportunity to show us what they know in different ways and not just relying on K-Prep and math to show us what they know.
I think you had a question.
Yeah, so this kind of leads me to the question I see these grade AP classes, and like I used to work at Myers, and the AP class was the one class that the teachers were like, oh my God, yay, I get it, because they weren't going to have any behavior problems, except that I have my EPD kids who, two of my EPD kids at the current school I'm supporting are literally the highest scoring kids in the school.
Absolutely.
But how do we, what's that?
I need to talk to you.
But how do I get, what I run into is a lot of those AP teachers don't know how to handle that gifted, disabled child. Or that disabling level of giftedness in some cases. Absolutely. And so like, do we have anything that we're working on? Because it seems like those teachers know how to teach the very smart and very motivated, but the smart and reluctant aren't always getting the ear.
Absolutely, and some of that has to do with culturally competent teaching, being able to reach kids where they are, being able to incorporate some music, and being able to do some things that really reach kids in a different way, because it's not gonna be, you know, if it's gonna be the sit and get, then you are gonna have some behavior problems. And so thinking about how we can change instruction to match kids' needs, as opposed to expecting kids to adjust to what we're doing instructionally. But yes, that's definitely,
No, and I run into that as well, just because a lot of the kids I teach aren't compliant, so they're not gonna be able to attend some of the, magnet schools. And they're just as talented as a lot of the students, and we just have to look at it in just a different way. To me, it's the non-compliancy of them that makes them gifted. I mean, that's why they're gifted, because they're not gonna listen. You need to tell them why. They wanna know the why and the how.
So, and a lot of times there's not a why. It's because I said so. And that just doesn't work.
Yeah, and then to kind of answer both of those, I am working with the director of ECE, Dr. Shearer, and we are trying to figure out how to better equip those teachers, because that is something that's very common. We have several EBD students who have scored off the charts on the WIS, but we haven't placed them because that teacher's not equipped to handle.
Well, or you run into one of two things. You've got a teacher who'll say, well, I can't teach them and teach these other 32.
Right.
Or you have the parent who comes in, why is this one kid taking up all the time in the classroom? And so even if you get the teacher on board, it's like, and I guess I just kind of feel like as JCPS, we need to do a better job of educating both of those groups.
Right. I think we do. Absolutely, I agree.
And that actually has a name too. Those kids are known as twice exceptional.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so some of the ways that we can advocate back to nurturing their gifts and talents and abilities, she's kind of already touched on that. When you see those leadership skills, or even those students who are creative, go ahead and, try to nurture those and help them in any way that you can, so those gifts and talents can be acknowledged, because a lot of times they just go unnoticed or unacknowledged. And then our kids lack a lot of perseverance. I have seen very gifted children sit in classrooms, and because something was too challenging, they gave up. And then that was it. They shut down. They weren't going to try anymore because they haven't been taught how to persevere through task or problem solving. So that's something that we have to do a better job of teaching our kids to do. Help them set and achieve goals. Goal setting is so important. Sometimes what they want to do is so large that they don't know where to start. So we just want to give them goals to set that they can achieve so they can feel successful. And then also encourage participation in enrichment opportunities outside of the classroom. That's a big part of advocating for them. All right, so we're going to talk about some programs that empower, that are out here for some of our girls. Girls on the Run is a local program that's designed to inspire girls to activate their potential and pursue their dreams. They actually have a curriculum that their sponsors go through. I know we have them at a lot of schools, but not all of our schools in Jefferson County, because I think you have to pay to join. But it's a really good program that if it's at their school, that they could be a part of. And then another one is Girls Rock Louisville. And this Girls Rock Louisville empowers girls from all backgrounds and views music as a force for change and an opportunity to develop self-confidence, self-expression, and involvement in social justice. So they use music to do those things. It's a really good program.
Okay, and next we have the first one, of course, oldie but goodie. We have Girl Scouts. And Girl Scouts are generally local churches. Some schools have them, different programs there. But the main focus of Girl Scouts is to prepare young ladies for leadership. And they have 5 key goals. I had to go back and look at this. I think I spent like 2 years as a Girl Scout. So I was like, what are those key goals they have? So they want girls to have a strong sense of self. They want them to learn how to seek challenges, to display positive values, maintain healthy relationships, and identify and then solve community problems. So those are all things that we want for our young ladies as well. So that's definitely a program. And then on top of that, if you stick with Girl Scouts, they have money at the end. They offer scholarships. So it's one of those things that we don't want to discount. 3D Printing Academy is actually in Louisville, and it's an education technology program, and it engages middle school girls by exposing them to the newest technological tools through the lens of STEM. So that's a program there as well. And you can look up information for that. It's just 3D Printing Academy for Girls.com if anyone's interested in looking at that any farther.
And then continuing with the STEM theme, Girls Rule STEM is a program through the Speed School at U of L. And so Speed School is an engineering school, of course, at U of L if you're not familiar, but Girls Rule STEM is a program. It's full-day sessions, and it's designed to engage self-identified girls in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, through hands-on experiences. So that is a program that has been going on for a while, so that's pretty tried and true. Something that you can look into. The Kentucky Girls STEM Conference, there's a website there for that, but that's a collaborative project throughout the state, not just here in Jefferson County. And then Inspire is through Brown-Forman. And that acronym stands for Increasing Student Preparedness and Interest in the Requisites for Engineering. So really promoting females in STEM careers and being able to expose them to those hands-on experiences that really pique their interest is what the Inspire program does, and that's a summer enrichment program.
So, my daughter just attended the Girls Run STEM one-day thing at U of L.
Oh, yeah.
2 Saturdays ago. There were no black girls represented. So even within that program, on that level, I had to bring it to their attention, like,
Where are they?
there was some women that graduated from the engineering program, but they weren't invited to be on the panel. And I noticed that there was not a lot of black girls from JCPS that was represented, even participating. So how is the word getting out to you guys? My daughter's in private, I heard through a friend. So how is the word getting out about these programs to black girls and brown girls throughout JCPS?
That's not something that I am in charge of, however. A lot of times, the communication comes through, there's a district communication that comes through every week, and it has a list of programs on it. Not that many parents are either signed up for that email or paying attention to it, because like I said, it comes weekly, so a lot of times that's overlooked, but we could definitely do a better job of the outreach portion of getting girls signed up for some of these programs.
Yeah.
And we have some educators in the room, so here are some programs too that you all can take back. You know, I'm all about taking back. So you see some things here, so here's some opportunities that, you know, if you see some girls that you think need that opportunity, you know, you can let parents know about that as well. And I know that through the advanced program office, a lot of times
To school
she
counselors.
sends out some things to school counselors. So if you're looking for enrichment opportunities for girls or anybody that's advanced program, then check with your school counselor. That's generally the point of contact who's getting different programs like this.
So do you think it's exposure a lot of the times that the girls are not labeled gifted because, you know, they're not exposed maybe to it?
A lot of it.
Yeah.
I do. And then the opportunity to, so I go to this summer program in the summer and you stay home and kick it out in the street in the summer. We're gonna have 2 different outcomes in August.
Absolutely.
So I'm getting summer loss and you're gaining maybe an extra year. So those type of things begin to make the playing field not be as level.
That you think about the cumulative effects of that type of thing.
And when you guys spoke to when they're tested at 3rd grade, scientists have proven that black kids are advanced at birth. So what happens between birth and 3rd grade where they are now not so advanced by 3rd grade?
So think about those gaps we talked about. We talked about healthcare. We talked about, you know,
Wealth,
poverty, access, all of those things.
And it could be the assessment as well.
I was gonna
If
say,
it's a biased assessment, then.
I was gonna say,
And that's, but we are looking at now including things like the backpack and other criteria to help identify students as well, but yes.
Okay, so this Girls Empowerment Conference, this is sponsored by the district through the Equity and Poverty Office. So it's an annual event and it's centered on female empowerment for JCPS students and just for JCPS students. And again, it's by DEP office. Just occurred a couple of weeks ago, right? And so each school has an opportunity to send girls to this conference for a Girls Empowerment Conference. So if you haven't heard anything about it, first of all, follow DEP on Twitter, and then you will see a lot of this programming that is promoted on a regular basis. But then also, again, talk to your counselors at your school about who are the girls that are being sent to this empowerment conference, and how can you, advocate for somebody who you feel like might need to go. And then there's Girls on the Rise. Rise meaning revolutionizing interpretation through self-expression. Also, JCPS DEP program. So that's another one, and then we have a video that kind of accompanies that.
This group is called Girls on the Rise, and I decided to come in here because I've been here before and I really like it, and it helps boost your self-confidence.
Well, Girls on the Rise, which stands for Revolutionizing Interpretation Through Self-Expression, is a program basically designed to equip girls with the strategies needed to think critically, artistically about any text that's put in front of them.
This group is like a girls empowerment group, and it helps us build like relationships with other girls.
This session we are reading Recitative by Toni Morrison.
When I think about it, it's a good book.
teach you about how people was back in the day.
We go through that text and we identify social issues,
Things we learned about people getting bullied, about the way they look, or about their skin color, racism. We've been making like notes about it, and we're doing a project now about stereotypes, which is kind of what the book's based on. And yeah, it's like another class, but I really kind of like it.
For their backpack-worthy artifact, they are actually creating kind of like a PSA, but they're using an app called InShot.
That's good. That was better. That we get to build our self-esteem and meet new people with our peers. The school district has really focused on like African American males, and I think it's important for us to like come together because we need the attention too.
Okay, it's right here. And a program like this helps them to realize the importance of themselves, the importance of not just following along. And then, of course, middle school is also that time academically where there's a lot of challenges coming from elementary, but we're preparing you for high school and beyond. So this program helps to instill all of that, both academically, socially, personally, and everything else.
Everyone shows their true potential and shows how they think and interact, and over time they become more comfortable with each other, where they're able to share their ideas comfortably.
So those are some programs that we thought would be tangible, actual things that keep.
No public schools in the country are in as bad a crisis as those in Detroit. High school dropout rates are more than twice the national average, and teachers are striking over dangerously dilapidated buildings, low pay, and
We thought that those programs were some things that are going on in Louisville and also sponsored through our district, some of them, that you could access tomorrow and find more information about and be able to actually go out and share with other little girls.
All right, so we have videoed you all to death, but here's another video, an oldie but good one. But we want you all to, as you think about these kids, we're trying to build phenomenal women. So this is one of my favorite poems, and we're going to end with on this note.
Many people wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. When I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenal. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man the fellows stand, or fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist, the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palms of my hands, the need for my care, because I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman, all you women, and me.
I'm ready to take the next step.
A really good book to get more information if this is a topic that you want to get a little more information on. Bright, Talented, Black, and Gifted, a guide for families of African American gifted learners. Gives some really good information about females and black male students and navigating the educational system. And then if you have not read Push Out, The Criminalization of Black Girls in Schools, definitely a good read to give you more information. And if you have any questions, feel free to email any of us. We are more than willing to help or answer any questions that you have. Any burning questions now? You're ready to go.
I understand that too. We are.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Hold
on one second.
Yes.
You
Okay. Announcement from DP.
Okay.
Thanks again. Any more burning questions? Any feedback or thoughts on the dialogue? Okay. All right. Well, this is a very hot topic in our district, and of course, we're still exploring and learning more. And then, of course, more of our another opportunity for professional development, but to enhance your cultural proficiency. We have Girls of Gallows on this Thursday with Dr. Dawson Edwards. I told you about it earlier on. I got the flyers now, and we'd love for you to come out. It's a community conversation, and we're looking to also get some feedback to help kick off some of our more formalized work around not only girls of color, but what would it actually look like if we were to have a school for girls of color. So that's the dialogue on Thursday night. All right, thank you.